this conversation, they were talking with Nabila, who was in Switzerland over the phone, and Nabila was already dealing with cancer. But this is a wonderful conversation. It's kind of the best thing in this book. And this is about, we started to talk about the male gaze and feeling very objectified as a woman, even to some degree at Bread and Puppet. And they talked about a video that Dee Dee made, Meredith. It cropped up everywhere in our lives, but the sexism did extend to Bread and Puppet. It continued there for sure. And then I wanted to share this photo, which is a photo of, I guess I took it from Girl in First Position by the Expanding Secret Company, directed by Tamar, at La Mama Gallery in 1987. And I think that is Meredith in the front, I'm not sure. I loved to work in the workshop, and when I first got there, I was basically the only woman who spent time there. And when I would build things in there, various men would ask, "Do you need help with that?" They would watch me working and then would tell me to change the way I held the hammer, exclamation point. Or they would say, "I could do that for you. How many do you need?" The first year or two I was there, women were rarely in the workshop and men were not in the sewing room. The sewing room was full of women, but things were changing in US culture as a whole. This was the 80s and early 90s, a tangible result of the feminist movement of the 60s and 70s. Young people were learning about gender issues and feminism and patriarchy in their high schools and colleges, and they were beginning to challenge the status quo. And so by my third summer there, I remember going up to the sewing room and being so happy it was full of men that I took this photo. And I don't have a picture of it, but I remember that same day I went to the workshop and it was full of women. Go back to the pageants and spirituality in a different way for a moment, which involves a circus in the mid-80s. Usually this audience sat on one side of the hill and watched the circus. Then there would be a break, and then they'd come back and sit on the pageant viewing hillside an hour later, over there. But there was one year when there was no break between. The entire audience of 15 to 20,000 people was asked to move from one side of the viewing hill to the other so the circus could continue straight into the pageant. And it worked. It went incredibly smoothly. All 20,000 people were able to shift en masse from where they were sitting, find new places on the other hillside and settle in. It was so memorable, and it points out this phenomenon of things that seem impossible elsewhere being totally possible and able to happen. I feel like part of the spirituality is understanding that we people are part of this entire universe full of creatures and life and different organisms and geology and weather and everything. During all those Bread and Puppet moments, especially in the outdoor shows, we were actively being an integral part of the universe. And when you allow yourself to be part of it, giant things are possible. When you're open to it and in tune with it, you find what is possible. For me, that is part of this big spiritual feeling. A part of that was when we would wonder, should we cancel the show because of rain? Should we move it indoors? Those shows had a place and a role in the universe, and the weather was going to work with us and allow the show to happen. And most often, inclement weather did and does hold off. So at those moments, I felt we were connected with the entire universe, and that's part of this spirituality. So she says more in this book about her film work too, so I wanted to share that.
Fooling around in some old clunker like we all drove, still drive, and it had a hood ornament on it, a brass hood ornament of a woman bowling, a big brass hood ornament. And I admired it. I said, "Oh, that is so cool," you know? She went, "Yeah." Well, next time I saw her, she had this for me. This is made to be drilled out and installed with hardware and things like that. But you know, we had upgraded cars a little bit, and I was not so ready to drill the hood out to install this, right? But every time she saw me, every time we drove by, she'd go, "What are you for? What the hell?" So I never did it. But this was in our shop in Vermont for another 20 years or so, and I always remembered where it was. I put my hands on it in 30 seconds today, then lost it in the car for about an hour. But I'm going to leave it here, but I'm going to take it back until I can come back with a drill and install it properly. But by the way, this is a woman in a very demurely length dress, and she's throwing horseshoes. I think the woman was bowling in the one that she had on her car. The car may have been a Dodge Dart. That ring a bell?
Yes.
Everybody drove them. I think she drove one. But anyway, see you down the road, Meredith. Yeah.
Meredith was my first friend in Vermont back in 1989. And we had a wonderful September where we had various projects, just the two of us. And we always have remembered over the past 30 years this wonderful September we had where we were working on dyeing fabric. And Meredith really wanted to dye this fabric with walnuts, and she had lots of different things. And we ended up eventually using RIT dye to enhance it, but it became the dress of a puppet we used for many years. We first used it in Uprising of the Beast and then the Columbus show. And I just found it when we were looking for tablecloths. I just found it in the sewing room. It had been turned into a curtain. So I felt like Meredith wanted me to mention this. And Meredith lived many places, and I have too. And in that September, she always wanted to go check out a new piece of land because she was going to buy something. So I feel like my first introduction to this landscape was really going to find this old camp and meeting the person. But usually before that, we'd get lost. So we'd meet a few other people along the way to get to the camp. So it's wonderful to look at. We're going to show some of Meredith's films, and many of them feature homes that she has lived in since. So it's a nice kind of way to catch up on all of that again, the old houses. A poem for Meredith, written on the day after her untimely death. On this day in the month of May, I learned dear Meredith passed away. Miss Diff, so bright, so full of grace, your story stopped mid-breath, mid-place. You were working hard with tools in hand, shaping life the way you planned. A roll of tape, some flashing trim, a pair of scissors on a whim. Then something shifted, swift and strange, and all at once the world was changed. No warning sign, no last goodbye, just a quiet hush beneath the sky. But oh, the spark you left behind still glows in those you moved and shined. I'm doing my best to write like you, to find a rhyme your spirits do. Your words still dance inside my head. I hear your voice in what's been said. We'll carry you inside us all, though grief has made us halt, crawl, stall. So stunned we are that you are gone. Meredith, you were the blazing sun.
Meredith, when I was probably 19, in the 80s. There once was a woman named Meredith. She came from a large family of 7 or 6. She lived in the town of East Hardwick. And what, you may ask, made her tick? She was truly a Jack or Jill of all trades. Let me tell you a few before memory fades. Filmmaker, apple picker, puppeteer, fiddle player, fixer of things, and mountaineer. She taught old people computers, was a maker of masks, taught children animation, was good at almost all tasks, did lighting for theaters and dances too, skied through the woods and wandered them through, was frugal and generous, a faithful friend, loved cats, wrote books, and her garden did tend. All that she did I cannot possibly say. And the day she died, what a sad day. From all your friends in the world below, oh Meredith Holch, we miss you so. Your prickly nature, your toasts and your rhymes, your crankies, your jokes, and your blueberry wine. Creativity, friendship, and the thought I can do. We keep in our hearts and think of you. Like straw in a garden, a nourishing mulch, a toast to you. Dear Meredith Holch.
Yeah.
So rainy. What a beautiful job these last two poems did in creating the picture of Meredith's everything. I met Meredith when she was a lighting person and a tech person at Dance Theater Workshop in New York City. And I continued to know her for, I'm sure, at least 30 years between New York and Vermont, and then knowing she was in Boston, and she was a beautiful connection for me between those two places. But when we think of her beautifulness and her prickliness, and what she really did for me was like get me out of the fucking house. Let's go skiing. Let's go sledding. Let's send up balloons with, wishes in them. Let's write a book. Let's have a fire. Let's play badminton in the winter. She was endlessly so full of so much life and inspired all of us. And she was always my first call on the way up. Mary's, I'm coming. When do you want to play? And we would play music. She played. She played hard and she played seriously. And she looked for life and she looked for connection and she looked for release. And she taught us that and she inspired that in us. And it was just so beautiful. There's one other thing I wanted to say, but I don't remember it. If I do, I'll pop up. But thank you, Meredith. Thank you.
I don't know what to say. It's really hard to say anything. So I don't know. Just wanted to say about the rain. And when I think about the way Meredith died, it was quite singular. I mean, some people die that way, completely unexpected and out of the blue, but most of us don't. Most of us have some kind of trajectory and we follow it, and it's understandable. But that she had that roll of duct tape in one hand and that scissors in the other hand, and she was like in the thick of it, in the middle of her life, and she was like starting a new chapter, and she was had a million projects, and she was about to do this and about to do that, and had plans for later that day. I just think that if she could have designed her end, she would have done something like that. Like just been like, and boom.
Yeah.
Like something so startling and so singular and so perfectly in character, with the duct tape and the scissors, and something that would shock us, and even the rain. I just feel like she, her actual death and her actual moment of death was really so Meredith.
Yeah.
And when she was working on her Brother Bird film, she was talking about that thing where when a loved one passes, sometimes they appear to us, as an animal. And she was talking about that, and she said, let's do that, you guys. Let's, like, when we die, let's really try really hard to appear to each other. And we were all like, okay, yeah. And the day she died, there was this long afternoon at her house, and it turned into a long evening, and I just couldn't leave her house. It was just the hardest thing in the world for me to leave her house that night. And so I stayed there a very long time by myself, and then I finally went home. It was around midnight, and I drove the very familiar road from her house to my house, and I pulled in my driveway, and there was a cat sitting on my front lawn waiting for me. And I got out of the car, and the cat looked at me, and I said, Meredith. And the cat looked at me another second and then just leapt out into the darkness. And it disappeared. And I've never seen a cat around my place ever before. I don't have nearby neighbors. Nobody around there has cats. And I've never seen one ever since. Which isn't that long. It's months. But I really felt like it was Meredith. And I really think she made it happen.
Wow.
She did it.
Wow.
From you in death, I learned something about living. You lived right under your skin, not pulled back, not hidden, not there, as you accused me of once. Your wit, your laughter, your joining a conversation, giving advice, giving a compliment, all came from just under your dry skin. You played your trumpet and violin without extreme grace, but with a presence, with a want, with I am here. I am here, give me more lines. In your pestering difficulty, I am here. I tried to rhyme for you, but I can't. I tried to find the last note you sent to me, where you called the last ski trip a few of us friends took wonderfully awful. You nailed it. So I lift my glass to you, Meredith, who said, I am here.
When it got plowed, it made this incredible area, arena to play badminton in, and you could just bounce off of the snowbanks that were on either side, and also choose to dive in them and do whatever you wanted. And after badminton, we would always have dinner, and it was just a really amazing time that we spent. And there are very few winters since I've known Meredith that I haven't gone sledding with her. And that's another one that now every time I go sledding, she'll be with me. And it's so incredible. And one other quick thing I just want to share is there's lots of nights at Claire's house with Meredith, with lots of very fabulous people, mostly women, but every once in a while not. And we would just have incredible conversations. And there was one night when Meredith went around the whole circle, and it was like, I can see everybody's future. I can see everybody's future. And she gave a little blurb for every person, and every person that she talked about, it was something completely different than they were doing right now. And I think that's the most incredible thing for me with Meredith. I think I'm a person who can get stuck and move in one place. And Meredith was Meredith all the time and was so many different things. And we had conversations about how hard it was sometimes to leave the job, to do the new thing, but she always did it. And I think of that. And when she was going around the circle, she came to me and she said, "I don't see your future." And I was like, and she was like, "No, it's an amazing thing. It means it's open." And I feel like Meredith lived her life that way, in a way of that things were open. And she moved from one thing to another with such grace and stumbling and falling and getting up and getting the birdie and all of the things. But yeah, God damn it, Meredith.
That's it.